Thanks. And first of all, I want to thank the media, all of you guys for virtually coming on. These are some abnormal times as we've all learned over the last few months. And I do want to offer you guys, we know you have a job to do here at Maryland, covering us. And I want to do all I can to make myself available to make your job as easy and as seamless as possible. So again, if you guys work through Dustin, I will try to do all I can, knowing obviously how abnormal this has been for all of us, but to try to be and make myself available to you guys as much and as often as we can. Before we get into questions, I got a few updates on our roster. Obviously with the pandemic and the ability for players to opt out due to their concerns, and we're really, as an institution and as a football program, are very supportive of players, whether they opt out or opt in. And so, we've had a few players decide to opt out. Jalen Alexander, Austin Fontaine, Johnny Jordan, Josh Jackson, Vincent Flythe, and TJ Cowtie have all expressed the desire to opt out of this season. And as we stated earlier, with this ability that have been put in place for these guys, that we're in complete support of each and every one of their decisions for their own individual reasons. And we'll continue to support those guys as best we can. Some guys may be exhausting eligibility. Those things are still a big question because the NCAA hasn't necessarily ruled on those things, and others we expect to return, once they have a comfort level of where we are. In addition to that, Chiego Okonkwo is also being medically held out because of a medical condition. And so he also will not be participating this upcoming season. With anything with injuries and things of that nature, as well as these decisions made individually, this is part of the game, and we're very supportive of all of our players in our program, even the ones that opt out or the ones that have chosen to stay in. So we also have a few position changes I want to go through. We've moved Isaiah Hazel from wide receiver to safety. We've moved Tyler Baylor from defensive end to tight end, as well as Cam Blunt from linebacker to tight end, in an effort to try to balance our team and give us the ability to operate our defensive systems the way we like to. And lastly, Joseph Bola-Tapeli is also the transfer from NC State, has been granted immediate eligibility for us on the defensive side of the ball. And we're excited to have him be immediately eligible for us to play. Today, obviously, is day one for us as we enter the 2020 season. I know our players and our coaches are excited about the opportunity to start our season. We understand the challenges that come with playing the game of football, and we're all really confident in the protocols as well as the different things that have been put in place by campus and our local community, our local health officials, to provide the ability for us to play a safe and healthy game. And we look forward to the start of training camp today with practice one. We'll continue to take every safety precaution we can as recommended, like I said, by our medical staff, campus, as well as local health officials and the Big Ten, to have a safe and productive camp. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
All right, thanks, Coach. For our first question, we will go to Emily. Emily, go ahead.
Good. Okay. Coach, I was just curious, what's going to look different in this fall camp? I'd imagine it's a lot of things, but just physically with how you're running practice, and then also almost the mental, psychological side of it with leading a team through so much uncertainty about what's coming up this season.
Yeah, again, and as you guys know, I'm a big believer in how do we operate based on the rules for today. And we've got a very clear-cut, concise plan for how we need to operate to make it safe and healthy for our players and staff. It starts with, the mask part. That's obviously going to be very different. anybody participating will have some form of mouth covering, where it be the plastic shield over the face mask, the gaiters over the mouth, as well as a mask underneath the helmets, in addition to the face shields that we provide on each helmet. Those obviously are different, and part of the rules for this year is that every member of the team on the field or on the sideline must have some type of facial covering via the helmet covering that we provide on all of our face masks, the splash shields, and or some form of mask over the mouth or face. So that's very different for us. Obviously the amount of people involved with our program and the way we practice, we're pretty fortunate that how we practice kind of de-densifies and helps with some of the social distancing things that we need to provide, because very seldom are we on one field with the whole team. And we've constantly, the way we practice, we two-spot a lot of things already, and that already in itself gives us some safe social distancing protocols from that standpoint. But where the challenges have been for us just in moving people and doing the everyday tasks, for instance, the locker room. Our players hadn't had availability to the locker room until today. We have to go in the locker room in shifts, different groups or pods, as we would call them. We'll go in, they shower, they get dressed, they leave. The next group comes in after cleansing, they shower, they get dressed, they leave. And so it's about organizing the movement of big groups or big pods to keep the social distancing guidelines in place, as well as to try to risk reduce as much as we possibly can. And that's just what goes along with when you have a team the size of a football team.
All right, for our next question, we'll go to Dave Ginsburg of the Associated Press.
Hey, Coach, just curious, what are you going to do at quarterback without Josh? I mean, obviously you're hoping that transfer will be okayed by the NCAA, but that leaves you a little thin at the position.
Yeah, we were thin coming in because we had two scholarship quarterbacks in Josh and Lance. And obviously with Josh making a decision to opt out, which again, we're in support of, now we've got as we've gone into the year, our expectation is we're going to need every player on our team. Walk-on, scholarship, and so we've helped ourselves with the addition of a couple of walk-on quarterbacks. Obviously Eric Nigerian, who's been in our program. We signed a walk-on locally, or brought a walk-on in locally, David Faust from over in Arundel County, who has been with us all summer. Challenging, yes, but we went into this knowing that very well this could be the case. We're hopeful that we get an answer on Tylea's waiver sometime here in the next day or two, hopefully. It's in the hands of the NCAA, and we've been waiting patiently for an answer from that. But Lance Lejeune has continued to make strides in our program, and the competition is still there. We're excited about what Lance brings to the table. Obviously, concerned with depth, but that's where, again, we've got quite a few guys, new faces in our building and in our program that we're going to need to count on to get us through this year, which will be very challenging and different.
All right, with our next question, we'll go to Heather McDonough.
Sorry, it takes me a second to unmute these things. Good to see you, number one, but you're healthy and everybody's doing well. This kind of, I guess, speaks to the Josh and some of the players opting out a little bit too, but what have been, and without divulging personal conversations, what have been some of the concerns that your players have had about the camp, whether it's guys who have opted out or guys who've chose to opt in, about the season, about camp, and how do you work with them to address those concerns?
There's been a wide array of concerns. Obviously, the COVID thing sits really in the forefront of a lot of thought process. Different players for different reasons have been affected or have issues with COVID or fears of COVID. But there's a lot of different reasons. I mean, there's eligibility concerns that have come into play. That's a huge, huge question for a lot of our players that have opted out, and even for some of those that are in right now, because, the questions are, what happens if a season starts and then we get shut down? Do I lose my eligibility for that year? How many games is it? Do I retain my eligibility if I get quarantined and have to miss 14 days? And these are all questions that, haven't been answered administratively, not here on campus, but collectively. This is a concern across the country. So those things have come into play. You also have guys that, for whatever reason, via the COVID, also maybe playing time and where they fit in an effort to save eligibility. So there's been just a wide array of reasons, but they all start with obviously the pandemic and where society is with COVID-19. As we've told each player that we've dealt with in making these decisions, obviously I have a job to do as the head coach, and then they individually have lives to live. And that's kind of where our two worlds kind of collide. And, we're very supportive of the individual decisions that they make with their families as to what they think is best for them as they live their lives. And we're in total support of them. From an administration standpoint, from a football standpoint, these guys are still members of our team, though not active members. And we'll continue to do our job and do our part to support them and help those guys move forward, whether they academically or football.
With our next question, we'll go to Lila Bromberg. Lila.
Hey, Lox, how are you doing?
What's up, Lila?
So, clearly you guys are just starting fall camp, but just in moving, to campus and starting to get to know his teammates, how have you seen Talia mesh with the, team and start, learning the new system?
Yeah, he has that infectious personality that players gravitate to him. He came in with the right mentality that I'm nobody different. I'm here just to be a member of this team. As we said, signing him and bringing him in, the expectations that we wouldn't have him available to play this year. And, obviously we're waiting on word from the NCAA of whether or not he'll be granted immediate eligibility, which would be, icing on the cake for us. But he's been here since June 1. He's assimilated really well with his new teammates. Had the opportunity here the last few weeks to just see how he interacts. And I know he's made the quarterback room better. Lance and he and all the quarterbacks in there are a really tight-knit group, and they all are working to help each other learn the system, move the program forward. So I've been really excited about the addition of him to our room just as a person.
All right, for our next question, we'll go to Charla McBride from WUSA 9.
Hey there, Coach. So the schedule coming out on Wednesday, you're jumping right in with conference play. All the games are conference play. That's different than years past. What are your thoughts when you first look at that schedule and you see all those teams on there, and starting with Iowa?
Well, I think it starts just with what you said. It starts with Iowa. I think going into the pandemic, we already had the #1 toughest schedule in the country, and minus the non-conference games and adding a ranked opponent, a really good ranked opponent in Iowa on the road, presents its challenges. But you know what? That's the lay of the land when you play in the Big Ten and the Big Ten East. There are no easy games in this league, and so it's a great challenge, but a great opportunity as well. For us to open up on the road against a ranked opponent, Iowa, who, I know pretty well from being in this league, a couple different places that will always be well coached, and they do a great job of competing. I know our players are excited to have a target now with so much uncertainty as to whether we would play, when we would start. And I think with the schedule coming out and putting dates and faces and names to the schedule, it's kind of given us the mindset that we have something to work forward for. And our players are excited about it, and we're looking forward to getting out on the field today with practice 1 to start the preparation to start fast this season.
All right, next we will go to Sean Stephner. Sean.
Hey, Coach, how you doing? Good to see you.
Sean, what's up? How are you?
I'm good. So, back to the COVID protocols and everything, you guys as a program can control what happens at practice and football activities. But away from the stadium and the practice field, it's kind of up to the players and your guys to follow protocols. What have you stressed to your players regarding what to do away from the field?
Well, I think it starts with a tenement of our program is accountability. And our players are well aware, and we've preached from day one that if one fail, we all fail. And we've had the unfortunate of having been paused for a minute, 4 days here during the summer because of our spike in testing. And our players are well aware of having gone through that the county, Prince George's County, and the health officials here take this thing very seriously as we do, and as we do as a campus community. So the combination of communicating to them, if one fail, we all fail. The combination of preaching social responsibility, if they want to play, the guys that have opted in that want to play the game this year, that they have a really strong social responsibility to live their life the right way off the field. And that's where accountability comes into play, because we feel really strong about the protocols we've put in place here on campus, as well as what the Big Ten is providing us and the local health officials. But no protocol in the world can protect us if we don't make good decisions away from our campus or in our private lives. So not just players, but coaches included, all have a responsibility that if we want to play the game and have a safe and healthy game, we all have to do our part individually. And, that's kind of what being on a team, and that's what football is all about, each individual doing his job in conjunction with others around them to make the play work well. This is how we got to approach it off the field and dealing with COVID.
All right, next up we'll go to Don Marcus.
Still around. He probably doesn't know how to unmute.
Can you hear me?
There you
Got
go.
you, Don.
Good. With Josh being a grad transfer already, is this an indication that his career might be over, given his age and everything?
My conversations with Josh was that he wanted to pursue obviously the academic piece of it. I did pursue that question with him, and I would venture to say that Josh Jackson has probably played his last football. We thank Josh for what he did last season, obviously coming in as a grad transfer for the new program. Wasn't what either of us expected, wasn't the season I'm sure he wanted nor we wanted. And, but he was a valuable member of our team. He brought a lot of things to our program from a leadership standpoint and how he did his business. So proud of him being able to make a tough decision like he's made, and even prouder that he's a guy that does things the right way off the field and will continue to pursue his education and finish his degree here at Maryland.
Thanks.
All right, next up we'll go to Thomas Kenziora. Thomas?
Yes, I'm here. Coach, so with two offensive linemen opting out of the season, I mean, what does this do to guys like Jalen Duncan in particular, Marcus Minor, who are now going to have, even more sort of on their plate as both on the field and as veteran presences than even before?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you lose injuries in one position or guys leaving, what we call cluster losses to your program, losing the experience of a Johnny Jordan and the style of play that Austin Fontaine brought to our team last year, moving over from the defensive side of the ball. But again, we're going to coach the guys that are here that have opted in, and we feel really good about the Spencer Andersons of the world who played a lot of football for us last year. Obviously, Evan Gregory is in our program, and we signed a junior college guy in Jahari Branch, who we felt going into spring ball and prior to the losing spring practice, that he would be a guy that would be able to make an immediate impact. The addition of Emilio Moran, another junior college offensive lineman, there's about 56 new faces, people that were not Terps a year ago. And so when you think about that, whether it's walk-ons or scholarship players, we've been able to turn our roster over almost 100%, almost 80% when you look at the amount of people we have that are new. So there's going to be a lot of development being done, a lot of coaching that's needed to be done from now until we get started. Obviously, with COVID, and we anticipate having to use our whole roster of guys that are available to us, and we're going to play the guys that are here. And of course, we hate to see and lose good players, but that's part of the game. We have to prepare our minds for that will happen, and have a plan to be able to put the best product we can on the field.
All right, back to Lila now for another question.
Lox, you guys have so many new faces on this team, from junior college guys to, freshmen, obviously having such limited time to get ready for the season with everything going on. How are you approaching getting those guys familiar with the system and the culture of the team?
Yeah, we've been really fortunate because though we haven't been able to do the physical piece, we've stressed the mental piece of it. And, if anybody watched us play last year, we had to really grow in that area of playing smart football and being able to know our assignments and why it's important to do them a certain way. And so during this time away that we haven't been able to take care of the physical and the fundamental piece of it, we put a premium on the mental side and the football intelligence piece that we hope will provide us the opportunities to go out and play at a higher level than we showed in the 3 phases of our team: offense, defense, and special teams. Now what we've got is, I want to say, 4 weeks to prepare our team physically. And, our strength and conditioning staff has done a great job this summer of providing a pretty good base. Obviously, we have to be really smart with how we practice, and we're really relying on the use of our sports science department here in our football program and the catapult system to do all we can to provide the data and know where we are in terms of player loads and the type of practice and efforts that's being exerted to get us to the game as healthy as we possibly can, while being smart with doing the physical things we need to do to callous our team to be ready to play a tough schedule coming up.
All right, back to Emily here for another question. Emily?
Hey, a little off topic, but I was just going to ask about the Coalition of Minority Football Coaches and what your vision is and what you really hope to see out of that kind of short-term and long-term.
Yeah, I think the big thing, Emily, it's already something that I've been loosely doing on a personal level. When I got into the business in 1992 and was offered the opportunity to get a fast start coaching at Towson, I went from being a player to being a full-time coach the very next season and progressed pretty quickly up the ranks. And, I was a guy that gets a lot of phone calls from different people, coaches, people in the business when they're looking for minority coaches. And so I was already loosely doing some of this. And obviously during COVID, had a lot of time to do some self-reflection. And as I like to say, being here at my dream job, being here at Maryland, the place I coveted, I just turned 50, so I feel like I'm on the back 9 of my career, that it's time for me to pay forward the opportunities that I've presented. And, this is a systemic issue, minority coaches being given opportunities. It hasn't changed a lot over the years that I've been a coach. And so I wanted to use some of the experiences I've gone through and some of the people that have helped me get through them to create this organization that just basically could provide maybe an easier pathway for the next wave of coaches. And, it's not just the college coach, but the youth league coach in this area that wants to be a high school coach, and a high school, and that's across the nation, but I'm using this as an example. The high school coach that wants to break into college, the college coach that wants to go to the NFL, the college coach that wants to be a coordinator. This organization is there to provide, as we like to say, our 3 pillars: prepare, promote, and produce the next wave of generation of minority coaches that are coming through the rank to help give them the tools and promote what they're doing, but also getting the names out in front of the decision makers to hopefully give them access to these opportunities.
All right, we have time for 2 more questions. Next up, we'll go to Jeff Ehrman of Inside Maryland Sports. Jeff.
Hey, Mike, with the 2 offensive linemen out, who are some backup guys or some new guys you can see helping you there with depth? And also, what are your thoughts at that tight end spot without Chick there?
Yeah, I think earlier addressing it, one of the things we had started doing even prior to the pandemic and COVID was, Marcus Minor is a guy that's versatile. He started at right tackle for us the last couple of years. He's taken snaps at center. Obviously, Spencer Anderson is a tackle, but also has taken and spent time as a center. The addition of the 2 junior college players, Moran and Branch, both give us some experienced guys, meaning not high school guys, but guys that played at a high level at the junior college ranks, to be able to come in. And then I wouldn't be surprised to see the development of any of the young high school players that we sign. And, we put a premium on offensive line this past recruiting cycle. These guys have been up here since June 1 for the most part, which a lot of them were able to get up here early based off of the rules that COVID allowed us to get them up here and not have to take summer classes. So, as we said, we're going to have to use everybody on our team and develop everybody on our team, because you're one, positive test or direct contact trace from not playing. And, we anticipate that. And to me, the teams that have success this year will be to do the best job, or have done the best job of trying to navigate that while also developing your whole roster. And the way we practice and the way our practice plans are put together, we do that naturally. So we know it's going to take all of us on this team to get us through a trying year and a different year. But we all are really excited to have the opportunity to get to play this year.
All right, for our last question, we'll go back to Charla McBride. Charla.
Hey there, Coach. So a big part of college football is the atmosphere and the fans, and it gets the players hyped. How are you going to prepare these guys for going into a place like Penn State, where they've said, they're not going to have any fans, and you're used to having 105,000 screaming people at you?
Yeah, that's a great question. But, one of the things that I learned in coming up playing youth football, high school football, college football, the fans do play a role. They do have an opportunity to bring energy to the game. But I also feel like the competitive people, that once the scoreboard, that's the most important thing that turns on during a game. Once that scoreboard is turned on, to me, the guys that are competitors, that's what really, really counts. And, I think this really lends itself to the old adage that, it's about what we do on the field, and you don't get caught up into what's happening in the stands or what's happening up with our fans. And so it'll give us the optimum ability to really have the attention of our players. And to me, those were some of the things that, when I talk about developing our team mentally, just the mindset that goes along with, you block out outside noise and external factors, and you really put your effort and energies into what you're doing while on the field. And that's the type of concentration you need if you want to execute at a high level in a game that has so many different moving parts. And so to me, it's added plus as a coach, maybe from an energy standpoint and an effort standpoint, but we want to build and develop a team that is self-starters, that get themselves going and get themselves motivated, and understand that the scoreboard is the most important thing that's a part of our game when it comes to how we want to play.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
Thank you, guys.